Hello, and welcome back to Surviving to Thriving for Highly Sensing People. I'm your host, Tammy Gowen, and as always, I'm thrilled to be here helping you learn all kinds of things about high sensitivity, about how to go from being overwhelmed and really struggling to really embracing the traits, honoring who you are as a highly sensitive person, sensitive, sensing person, and really being able to thrive. And that's my whole mission here with my show every week. And this month, really, I want to focus on boundaries. So we're going to talk specifically today about like physical and time-oriented boundaries, but there's a lot of overlap. And, some people don't like the term boundaries, and I'll talk about that in a minute, a little caveat there, but we can use different terms. Limits or guidelines, I think, is a really good word if we're not going to use the term boundary. But really, to me, it's about honoring what resonates and what's okay for us, honoring that that's okay, and setting those parameters, if you will. That's another term we can use to make sure that everything is working in our favor and for us, so that we can be the people we want to be for everyone else. So being able to say no is a really important tool to develop. And I say that because, especially as highly sensing people, we can have a challenge with saying no because we want everyone to be happy. We want everyone to be happy with us. We tend toward perfectionism, and we just like, things to be harmonious. And so saying no sometimes is really challenging. So hopefully if nothing else, you take away from today, just this idea. Consider the option of saying no sometimes when it feels uncomfortable, feeling comfortable with being uncomfortable, and seeing how that goes so that you can honor yourself and your needs. And I do want to honor this idea of like, oh, I don't like that term boundary, if it suggests that you're going to cut yourself off from the world. So it can be really easy for highly sensing people, especially who are also introverted, to get to a point of being almost isolated, or just, saying no to so many things, and choosing to just stay in our own little shell. And we don't want that. I mean, we thrive on deep connection, and, we have this great curiosity about the world, and we love to be part of everything happening in the world, not necessarily as an extrovert, but sometimes. But if we overdo, we're going to be in trouble. But if we keep ourselves from having any experiences at all, that's not healthy either. And then our, enjoyment quotient really drops because we're not engaging in those things that really feed us. So it's not a matter of saying no to everything, or to limiting our options and the activities that we want in the world. It's just knowing how to discern when something is beneficial for us or resonates, and when it's time to say, wow, that sounds really great, but I need to say no this time. So just keeping that in mind. It's not a hard and fast rule of just like, nope, I just can't put myself out there, because that's not where we want to go. We want to live vibrantly and have this amazing life and enjoy the world. So we need to be out there doing things and engaging with people. So let's talk about it as a really specifically physical guideline, parameter, if you will, boundary, our physical space. And part of that is like our personal bubble, which is, again, kind of carries over into the realm of energy. We have our energy bubble, our personal space bubble. And then we have the actual environment that we may or may not be able to control. And those two overlap with each other as well. But if we're looking at physical personal space in terms of our bubble, we can look at things like movie theaters. And I usually prefer to watch movies at home in the comfort of my own couch and my own popcorn and things like that. But I do have a friend that likes to go out once in a while, and we always go midweek, or a weekday, so it's less crowded, and a matinee time, so it's considerably less crowded. And I don't even know if movie theaters are jammed in the evenings these times or on weekends anymore with all the digital options, but that always gives us that huge cushion, like this is not going to be busy. But one of the things that I think is fascinating, at least in my area these days, is that in order to get a ticket, you actually choose your seat now. This is brilliant for us highly sensing people, right? Because you can either wait until the very last, moments, you're going to have 20 minutes of previews anyway, and see where everyone else is sitting and then choose accordingly so that you can be in your own little space. Or you can immediately choose to be in the very back row so you at least don't have anyone behind you, or you can be on an aisle so that you know that you can only have people on one side. So there's a lot of options being able to actually choose your seat now. So I think that's amazing and a wonderful thing if you're going to go out to a movie. And then another thing that pops into my mind when I'm talking about this is the idea of like a concert, which, for me has to be a certain type of music, a certain type of, crowd, and is set up in a certain way, right? And one of the things that I absolutely will not do is a standing room only event, whether that's a concert or anything that you would be watching. If it's standing room only and you're going to be like completely limited on your personal space bubble, those are not the events for me. And I would imagine that is probably the case for a lot of highly sensing people, because we don't like that infringement of our space, and we like to have our own energy and not have so much so close to us, right? So if we have this bubble, we can expand it, we can bring it in if we have a choice, right? So if we're at a concert and there are, it's standing room only, they're shoulder to shoulder with people, that often doesn't work because you have no control over your bubble, right? It's like you can remove that bubble for a moment to give someone a hug by choice, and then that's great. And then you step back and then you resume whatever your bubble is. Or, if you're with your partner, you're holding hands, that's a choice, right? But if we're in a place like standing room only a concert, there's no choice whatsoever. And those who are not as conscientious about personal space, can just not be paying attention to any of that. There's a lot of jostling and, elbowing. And if you're a short person, you get a lot of that like right in the head area. And, it's just not very comfortable. And so I opt out of those situations. But those who are extroverted might have a little bit of a challenge with that because they think the idea of this experience sounds so amazing. And then they get there and there's all this jostling and all this extra energy and noise and people not paying attention to their own space. And then eventually that can still be, too much, even though they're wanting to put themselves out there and have that great experience. So on the same lines of actual physical boundary, we can look at things that outside of what I've already talked about, things that we can control in our environment. And sometimes that's sound, sometimes it's light, whatever is within those parameters of like, okay, I'm going to do something different here. I can control this. And one thing that makes me, that comes up when I'm thinking of this is, and I'm getting ready to go visit my sister in about a week and a half. So this is going to come up. And as I was thinking about it this morning, like, oh, that's one of those good examples. Whenever I visit there, she is definitely not highly sensing, very, very busy, always doing a lot of stuff, introverted, but just not a lot of downtime and always engaged in something, right? Which is very different than my own energy. But, I can manage that for a while. That's fine. But she's an avid coffee drinker, loves her coffee, but with her being so busy, she will get her coffee, set it down and go engage in something, and then it gets cold. So then what does she do? She puts it in the microwave, reheats it, goes off and does something else, forgets that it's in there, and then does that, repeat. She can do that 6, 8, 10 times before she actually drinks her coffee all the way. So that is something that doesn't bother her because she doesn't notice the dinging of the microwave. And I try to use the microwave as little as possible. And when I do use it, I always try to stop it just before it rings, even in my own house, right? I just don't like that repeated, loud, tingy noise, right, coming. So if I'm at her house, it's not my equipment, not my kitchen, not my coffee, but I have learned that in order for me to manage there, okay, that's one thing that I can set a limit on. And, very discreetly at first. And then I was just pretty spoken about it and said, by the way, you made him notice that I'm doing this. So I've learned that once she does that the very first time, because of course I'm going to be aware, oh, she's putting her coffee in the microwave. So I know that it's going to ding, and I allow that to happen that one time. And then, because it dings, 4 times. And then I'm totally aware, okay, her coffee is ready. And most likely she's not going to run over and grab it. But her microwave has the reminder dings, right? So you're probably used to this. If this is something for you, you're probably nodding your head now. And so every 30 seconds or so, it's going to ding again to let you know, hey, you didn't get your coffee, right? But she doesn't hear that. She doesn't pay attention to that. And she's off busy with her thing. So that can happen over and over and over. And then she'll realize like, oh, but it's cold again. So she starts all over. And I know this might sound like really silly if this is not your thing, but I've learned that to help me so that I feel more comfortable and I'm not irritated or, on edge or whatever. The second I notice she goes over and puts that in her microwave, once it's done, I just get up, I go over, I open the door and I close it, and there's no more dings. And it doesn't make any difference for her because if it's dinging, she doesn't hear it. So, it's just for me. And it's kind of a joke now, because every once in a while she'll catch me doing that. She goes, oh, I left my coffee in there, didn't I? Yep. And then, it starts over. But that removes that bit of irritation from me, for me, I just go over, open it, close it. And then it's fine until she realizes she needs her coffee again. And then we start over and then I do the same thing. So that is something that I can control, to an extent. And I just let her know, like, yeah, the beep really bugs me. So I just make it not beep. And when you're ready, you can go get your coffee. And sometimes it helps her remember that she hasn't gotten her coffee, and then she will get it. So those are just some ideas of, actual physical boundaries that we can have. And sometimes they might be really quirky, like my example that I just went through. And we need to just be okay with the fact that that's the way it is. And some people who are not highly sensing and who are not going to be bothered by those things might look at that stuff and go, really? What is your problem? And you can say, well, I know that's not a big deal for you at all, but it is like fingers on a chalkboard for me, or, something like that. You can just let them know and just set that boundary, if you will. Okay, so moving on to a little bit, it's still, to me, physical boundaries. So that's why I've incorporated in this talk. But if we're looking at time boundaries, and that involves scheduling, because that is a huge thing for almost everyone that I work with, is this idea that we have to do, get all this stuff done, and you only have so much time, but you can't say no. You have to take one more project. You have to do one more thing for somebody else before you can say, oh, but no, I need, this is too much. I need some time out. So it's just really an important topic to be looking at your actual schedule and considering it both in terms of physical time, how much time do you actually have, how many chunks within your day, but also what's your bandwidth? How can you manage within the schedule that you have set? And where do you need to look at that and say, this is going to be too much? Or even after the fact, this is too much and I need to do something. I need to step back. So the idea of creating a livable, doable schedule that honors your level of sensitivity is primary. So important if you're wanting to be successful in work, just not wanting to be overwhelmed, come home from work at the end of the day and not even have any, energy or desire to hang out with the family or go to a movie or, whatever it is, that it's just too much because you have too much on your plate. And it's hard for us sometimes to let go of that because we look around and see everyone else doing everything and think, oh, they can manage everything. But, we don't know if they're going to crash when they get home as well. But also they might have more bandwidth because they're just not, they're just not as sensitive to everything. They're not getting their bucket filled up so quickly. So honoring that is really, really important. So one of the things that you can do before adding something to your schedule, or just if you're looking at your schedule for the day and say, okay, what does my day look like, is taking a moment to check in and ask how that feels. What is that like? So you look at your schedule and someone says, hey, can you do this thing at 3 o'clock? I'm running out of time. And maybe your instant response is to say, oh, well, of course. Yeah, I'll take care of that for you. But before doing something like that, if you can stop and say, give me a minute, let me check my schedule. So that gives you some permission to take that time. And then check in with yourself and say, okay, I've got all of these things lined up for today. If I had one more thing, how's that going to be for me? And then honor what that response is. If you are having a really vibrant, energetic day and you are feeling top of game and it seems fine, then you can say that. You can check in, say, no, but that feels totally doable. Being totally honest with yourself. And then you can say, sure, yeah, I'll do that. And maybe you just know that you had nothing planned after your last project or meeting or whatever for the day. Maybe you know that you have something that's particularly soothing coming up, whatever it is that allows you to say, yeah, I can do that. But if you're really honest, sometimes that will happen and you'll check in and go, wow, to think of adding that one more thing to my schedule makes my entire body tense up, makes my jaw tight, makes my gut clench, whatever it is for you, that kind of physical response that you probably would have if you're checking. If you're not checking, you're probably not going to be aware of it or paying attention to it. So if you check and say, how would that be? And then honor what that response is. And then sometimes that means to say no to someone and say, oh, you know what? I have all of this stuff going. I just don't have the extra room for that. I'd love to help you. I have to say no. And being okay with that saying no, that setting that limit, that boundary, that guideline that honors where your level of sensitivity is and where your bandwidth is, how your energy is. Being able to do that on an ongoing basis will really help to minimize that, reaching that point of overwhelm. If you just go on, day to day, just whatever gets thrown in and don't retract anything, don't set those limits, then it's really easy to get overwhelmed, whether anybody would, or maybe it's, because of your sensitivity, but it's super important to identify that. So really do that self check-in. How does this feel if I allow this one thing? Or maybe you just look at your schedule for the day and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just scheduled all of this stuff for myself for today. What was I thinking? That I don't see how I could possibly have that much bandwidth, even if I had a perfect night's sleep and I felt full of energy this morning. This is like way too much, right? Those are going to have those days too. And being able to say, all right, where can I pare down? Where is something that I can move to the next day so that I can manage today and still have energy left for the rest of the week? And being okay with that and not seeing it as, I'm going to feel guilty and I should have seen this coming. And, all of that self-talk that's just never helpful. Just acknowledging, oh, okay, well, I've got a clear mind. I'm looking at my schedule and I realize this is just not doable for me. So I can make these adjustments. Sometimes it might mean letting someone know, hey, I told you I could do this thing today and I just realized I just do not have room. Can we do that tomorrow, please? Or maybe you have, a dinner arrangement or a lunch date or, whatever it is that might need to just move to another day because you realized if you do every single thing that's on your schedule right now, you're going to end the day completely exhausted, not wanting to do anything fun or even relaxing, once you're done with your day. And then you're just contributing to this overarching level of overwhelm, of just complete exhaustion by the end of the week, if not the end of the day. So one thing that can really be helpful as you are looking at your schedule so that you don't get in that place of overcommitting, overdoing, and then having to, retract, is that every day, if you can create or you can keep it ongoing for your week, of course, but, you start the week, you have your list of to-dos, and that might be, maybe you have one that's personal and one that's business, or maybe you put them all together, however you do that, but you have your list of ongoing things. And, you're probably, if you're pretty conscientious about things and you're busy with stuff, you might have 10 or 15 or more of these little to-do things, right? Some of them are really tiny, some of them are really huge, but you have this huge list. That can be super overwhelming, just looking at this huge list. Oh my gosh, look at all of these things I have to do. very overwhelming. But if you can look at that and say, okay, here's my master list. What can I do with that to be making it more manageable? So what I suggest is taking the top 3 to 5 things, top as in most pressing, either time sensitive, excuse me, or something that is just, you know, you need to get that done so that all these other things can fall into place, whatever it is, you decide that is the most important. Let's say you're doing 5 things. You identify what those 5 things are and either move them to the top of the list or just create a new, you know, partial list of the primary to-dos. I like that because then you're not looking at that other one at all. You don't see any of that overwhelming, like, oh, look at all of those things. I know I'm checking stuff off, but there's still all of those things. And one of the things about lists of to-dos, right? There is never not something to do. You're not going to get through that list and go, great, I am done. I have nothing to focus on for the rest of the day or the rest of the week. That's not going to happen, right? There's always more stuff coming in to add on to that list. So it's always in your face if you're looking at that big, long list that just keeps, you know, revolving. So if you have your smaller list of those really primary things, once you get those checked off, you can go to that other list and move something over to be now primary. Again, without still having to be looking at all of those all the time. But then one of the things I want you to consider, especially as a highly sensing person, but this is important for everyone, when you get that list and you're moving those 3 to 5, probably 5 things into your primary list, try to commit to having one of those items that has to do with your self-care. And that might be a push for some of you. If you're saying, wait, I have to put like meditating or, you know, going for my walk or my half-hour just me time to journal and, you know, whatever that is, I have to make that as important as these work obligations. And I'm saying, yes, absolutely. Because what happens if you don't do all of that personal care stuff, you don't make sure that you have that time by dedicating it into your schedule, it's likely to not happen. And then you can't, eventually you hit that overwhelm. You can't be that person you want to be, the employee you want to be, the business owner, whatever it is, your role, you're a parent. You can't be who you want to be if you get so depleted that you're completely out of energy and you just don't have the fortitude to manage any of the stuff that you want. You're not going to get to any of those things on the list eventually if you can't take care of yourself first. So try to make that happen by putting it in that high priority little section, that little separate list. One of those things needs to be something for you. And maybe that means if you get to work and you work, and then if it's finally time to go home and somebody asks you, did you take any breaks? And you say, whoa, I guess I didn't even make time for lunch, right? That's very common. So maybe one of your things on your top priority list of one of the 5 things on there is a full hour lunch break. And that means not eating while you're doing your projects, right? It's just you time to recenter, calm down, energize, actually enjoy the food going into your body, you know, those kinds of things. That needs to be part of, if that's something that's really key for you, that would be a good example of what to have in the primary list. And it's in that list of, okay, I can't really check off any of these other things or address any of these other things until I make sure that these have happened. And so if you somehow get done with all of those 4 things before it's lunchtime, you can certainly move something over. But for the most part, within that first half a day up until lunchtime, you can probably fit that one in there. And then you're taking care of you, you're honoring you, you're setting that boundary of, this is what I need to be good to myself so that I can be the person I want to be for the world. And a lot of times people will come to me and they know, yeah, I've done some meditation, I've done some of these things before, it's just nothing is consistent. Or they have absolutely no self-care routine at all. And they're trying to manage all of this energy and all of these things in the world as a highly sensing person. It's a huge struggle. And so to make that happen, it really needs to be in your schedule until it becomes habit. Once you get to where you automatically do your meditation or some kind of breathing, or you walk in the morning, or your journaling time, or whatever it is that takes care of you, and you do that without having to look at a schedule, and it's just completely automatic, then you don't have to add that to your schedule anymore. You can add one more thing to your list of your to-dos, or shorten it to 4. But until then, it needs to be scheduled in, because it will not just happen. And if it's something that has to be sometime during the day and you don't have that scheduled in, again, it's not going to happen if you think, oh yeah, I'll do something good for myself, healthy for myself, whenever that window opens up. Again, that's not likely to happen. You need to be very clear and say, I need this to be as important as everything else on my to-do list. And so it goes into that priority section. So I know I'm like on the soapbox here, but this is so important. So once you get through with those 5 things on your priority list, then you can say, oh, you know what? I have a few hours left, or a couple hours, or 1 hour, whatever, and a little bit of energy still that I can put towards something else. I'm going to go to my big list, my master list, and choose the next most pressing, or at that point, maybe the ones that you think you can get done quickly and that will help you feel better to check it off your list. Whatever it is, pick 1 or 2 things, move that over to that list, and just be looking at those things again instead of that huge master list. And then just continue to do that until you get as many checked off for that day as you possibly can. And be okay with that. There will always be more on the master list, always. So if your sense of satisfaction or success for your day is only based on getting every single one of those things off of that big list, you're just setting yourself up for having a really rough day and feeling guilty and unsuccessful and all of those things. So just recognize that you have that master list. There's always going to be more and more stuff put on there, but you don't have to look at it every time. So shift it over as needed. And then at the end of the day, you can say, wow, look at all of these things that I accomplished. I checked off these. I even had time to move over a couple. I checked off those. Great. That's awesome. So that's how my day went. And I don't have to look at those other ones until tomorrow. Some people like to do their schedule for the day before they go to bed. If you're going to do that, I would recommend doing it more than an hour before bed, so you can still have that hour of time to unwind, not be focused on work or to-dos, and just recharge. If you are doing it sometime that evening before, though, looking at it again and saying, okay, here's my master list. Let me pull those 5 important ones, including the one thing for me, and move it over to the master list. And then you start the next day. You don't even have to look at that master list because you already have that list. But if you do start that way in the morning, again, just looking at that list and saying, okay, what are those 5 that I'm going to focus on? Pull them out, tuck that other one away so you're not looking at it. Because sometimes if we're just looking at or thinking about all of the things that you could be doing, your breath starts to get shallow. You can feel yourself tense up. That's a lot, right? That can lead to just that can lead to feeling anxious. We don't want that. Okay, so let's see if I have any other things to add to that idea of the list. It's just so important to make sure that you are including yourself in that list, to make sure it happens, and letting go of that idea of feeling, or that sense of feeling guilty or selfish if you are trying to do something for you and not for everybody else. But remember, you have to put on the oxygen mask, then you can help everybody else. So making that happen in your schedule is a great way to practice those boundaries and say, okay, what I need right now is breaks. I need a 10-minute break in the morning, a 10-minute break. This is what I recommend anyway, always. At least a 10-minute break in the morning, 10-minute break in the afternoon, and then some kind of a quality lunch break in the middle of the day. How can I make that happen? And sometimes you might have to, juggle some things. You might have to remove something, move something to the next day, etc., to make that happen. But you have to make yourself the priority. And that is the challenge for many of us highly sensing folks. Okay, so some other little things to throw out there. But I've used up all the time making this, such an adamant thing. So I really appreciate you joining me every week, and please do reach out if you have any questions. Tammy at coachtammygoen.com. Send me an email, ask me any questions. And here's to you moving from surviving to thriving by honoring you as a highly sensing person. Have an amazing day.